Hello, listeners. This is your favorite storyteller, Sarah, from the Kahani Suno with Kabir and Sarah podcast. Salam, namaste and sat shri akal. कैसे हैं आप लोग आज? मैं तो फिर से बहुत excited हूँ to be narrating to you the final part of my 3-part series, Till Death Brings Us Together. Before we get in with part 3, let me take you back briefly to part 1 and part 2. In part 1, which was titled The Togetherness, we were introduced to a loving couple, Hassan and Samreen Haq, and their 2 grown-up daughters, Sonia and Sophia. We got a peek into their fabulous and rich life and also witnessed the 25th wedding anniversary celebrations of Mr. and Mrs. Haq. Everything was hunky-dory until the appearance of an old lady who introduces herself as Sonia and Sophia's paternal grandma. She goes on to shockingly accuse Hassan of stealing her son's life. Part 1 ended with Samreen exhorting Hassan to let their daughters know the truth. In part 2, which was titled The Death, we get to know that Hassan is not Sonia and Sophia's real father, but rather was their father Rehan's best friend. We are taken back to 27 years where Hassan is visiting Rehan and his wife Samreen, who is pregnant with their second child. Hassan is a famous speaker who travels the world but manages to make it back to Rehan's home every year for a week for Thanksgiving. Rehan and Hassan had been turkey hunting in a mountaintop cabin about 200 miles away from Rehan's home for almost a decade every year. It is an annual ritual where they hunt turkeys, head back home, and celebrate Thanksgiving with family before Hassan flies off. This time, however, things take a drastic turn when Rehan dies accidentally as the rifle he is cleaning goes off. Hearing this news, Samreen goes into labor and delivers Sophia the same day. Hassan takes care of everything for her then and for a while afterwards. 2 years later, he proposes to her and she accepts. They get married, but that doesn't sit well with Rehan's family, who accuse Hassan of murder. He gets exonerated of the charge and heartbroken, he decides to move Samreen and the girls to a new city and decides that they will cut off connection with Rehan's family and never let the girls know who their real father is. Now let's continue with the rest of the story, the part 3, which is titled Till Death Does Us Apart. So this happens about 10 years later from the first time we were introduced to the 25th wedding anniversary. The camera pans back into the house. There are more pictures with more additions to the family. There are a lot fewer plants though. Also, there are no signs of cooking, dancing, or any of the conversations that we saw about a decade ago. Just whispers and echoes of a happier past. The house almost looks deserted. Are you planning to go to the funeral, Mom? Sophia's high-pitched voice echoes in the hallways, bouncing off the walls. I don't think I should. I don't want to rake up anything. On the other hand, I feel that you should go. You will be welcomed with open arms. Your family after all, Samreen answers. Sophia just keeps staring at her as she moves the plants into a box. I can't believe you said that, she slowly says. And why not? She's your paternal grandma and you owe her a debt. I don't owe anyone anything, Mom, especially a woman who single-handedly has ruined the thing that I've held most dear to my heart. I think you're giving her way too much credit, more credit than she deserves, really. Ma, I don't know who I hate more at this time, you or her. I really don't know. And I really do not care, Sophia, considering how easy it seems to be for you to act like a pendulum that oscillates between love and hate on whim. Anyways, that was just a suggestion. What you do is up to you. I'm sorry, Mom. I should not have said that, Sophia remorsefully acknowledges. I know the past couple of months have been very hard on us, especially Dad and you. Hard would be an understatement. Rehan's mom had achieved the impossible feat of getting the state to reopen the case. The prosecution was alleging that some omissions were made during forensics and also that the modern world could throw more light on the death. Hassan was charged with premeditated murder, and it had been a year of going through the court system. Finally, the trial date had been set. Hassan Haq had been charged with the murder of Rehan Noman almost 37 years ago. All hell had broken loose. Mrs. Norman had relentlessly pursued the matter but could not live long enough to see the case go to trial. She had died of a heart attack a week before the trial. It was like her heart burst and could not go on any longer. The haunting of her son's death loosened its grip only when her own life slipped away. It was like even death could not give her the peace she had so desperately sought. Sonia and Sophia never reconciled with her. They moved even further apart when their adopted dad was implicated in the murder of their biological dad. The girls were, of course, firmly behind their dad. They could not believe that Rehan's mother, aided by the extended family, would go to the extent of having Hassan indicted for an accident. The man who had provided and taken care of the family that Rehan had left behind like his own. How could anybody be so cruel, so wild? Samreen tried to shut out the noise surrounding Hassan's arrest and fixed her mind on the life they had built together, a life that had given her the means to raise her daughters in the best possible way, a life that had quietly stripped her of the luxury of choice, a life that had cornered her into choosing Hassan for one simple, unarguable reason. He was the only one who had been there when she had needed someone to be. She had always known she would never love anyone the way she had loved Rehan. He had been her first love, her husband, the father of her daughters, her entire world. She had told Hassan as much when he proposed to her. He hadn't flinched. He believed that his love for her would be enough for the both of them. And somehow, it was. Samreen became a dutiful wife. More than that, she became a grateful one. And gratitude, she learned, often lasts longer than love. Love can loosen its hold, fade with time, or even betray itself. Gratitude never does. It watches you even in your sleep. It is an omnipresent force, quietly governing every decision, every compromise. You can betray a lover. What you cannot betray is a man who gave your children their life back. You cannot go against your benefactor. You simply can't. That was what Hassan had come to mean to Samreen. A benefactor, almost godlike, ruling her life in much the same way. Life revolved around him, his preferences, his decisions, how he wanted the house to look, the choices he made for their daughters. Her role was simple. She just had to comply. After all, he was her savior, wasn't he? Whenever she dared to question him, subtle reminders followed, quite calculated hints of everything he had done for her, for the girls. The loudest protest she ever made was when he decided to erase Rehan completely. He wanted every photograph destroyed. She had wanted their daughters to know when they were old enough who their real father was. Hassan forbade it. If Rehan's mother hadn't appeared on their wedding anniversary, the girls might have never known at all. Strangely, Samreen felt relief when the truth had finally surfaced. She expected questions, curiosity from the girls. Some reached towards Rehan's family. Some attempt to resurrect his memory, even briefly so, just enough to prove that he had mattered. But nothing like that happened. The girls kept their distance. They steered clear of their father's past as though it was forbidden ground. That reaction unsettled her more than anger ever could have. Only then did Samreen understand they were bound by the same invisible fence that she was. A fence built of gratitude. Gratitude towards a man who owed them nothing, yet had given them everything. And gratitude, she knew by then, was the strongest kind of captivity. She continued to play the role of a loving and distressed wife behind that cloak of gratitude. Hassan assured her that he had done nothing wrong. The forensics proved otherwise. There had been a tussle that had never been mentioned before. Hassan's defense team asked him to provide with an explanation. He could no longer deny that he had not been part of the shooting. He had to give a reason, and he did. He said Rehan had been despondent. He didn't want to return home the next morning. He had spoken about ending his life. There had been affairs, scattered in secret, and the guilt of them had begun to eat away at him. One of the women had started blackmailing him. Worse still, he was sure of one thing. If Samreen ever found out, she would leave. He couldn't bear the thought of facing her or the idea of losing her. Hassan said that when Rehan raised the gun to himself, he had lunged forward instinctively. There was a brief struggle, a desperate wrestle between two men and one loaded weapon. In the chaos, the trigger was pulled. The bullet tore through Rehan's head, killing him instantly. Later, Hassan made a choice. He decided not to tell anyone that Rehan had wanted to take his own life, because that truth would demand explanations, and explanations would expose the affairs. And that, he believed, would destroy Samreen, to know that her husband had betrayed her while she was carrying his child. So Hassan had stayed silent. He buried the struggle, he framed it as a stupid accident. All he said, was to protect her. Samreen groaned inwardly at the confession. Another sacrifice, another secret, another reason she had to be grateful for. And to continue standing by her husband even though he might have killed her first husband, widowed her, and orphaned her children. Accidentally, maybe, but he just might have pulled the trigger that had killed Rehan. Was there even a bit of intention in there? The thought startled her. How dare she go there? Had Hassan ever given her reason to doubt him? Had he once behaved in a way that was cruel, careless, or out of line? He had carried a devastating secret his entire life to protect her and shouldered the burden of it alone. And here she was, picking apart his intentions, searching for fault where there had been none. The guilt pressed in quickly, suffocating. She told herself that this was what hardship did. It poisoned the mind, dragged every certainty down with it, made even gratitude feel suspicious. When things fell apart, they didn't do so neatly. They took everything with them, even trust. She decided to bury these thoughts and doubts in the deep recesses of her mind, just as she had buried her love for Rehan deep within her soul, not letting the world catch a whiff of it. The prosecution did not buy the explanation. What affairs was he referring to? Could he provide any proof, any names, anything that they could verify? He could not. Rehan had not confided in him about the names. He was a thorough gentleman. He would never besmirch a woman's reputation. Even if he had, Hassan would not have known. Apart from the 1 week they spent together, their lives hardly collided. They did not share intimate details about their lives. They knew little about each other. Then why had Rehan chosen that moment to reveal something so intimate? The question refused to die. It multiplied instead, questions breeding explanations, explanations sparking arguments, and arguments demanding rebuttals. Drama unfurled in every direction. This was a high-profile case and everyone wanted a piece of the pie. Soon, the articles followed. They always did. And as was most inevitable, the harshest judgment was reserved for the woman at the center of it all. The world turned on Samreen. Her loyalty was dissected, her character put on trial. How could she fall in love with her dead husband's best friend? Had he been her secret lover all along? Had the two of them conspired to murder Rehan? In the public imagination, Samreen fell wholly and swiftly. The ethereal angel they once pitied descended into something far darker. A bewitching witch, seductive and suspect, blamed not just for surviving, but for daring to move on. There was even talk of her being charged as an ally to Hassan. That's when it happened. Hassan confessed. The world was taken by surprise, more so Samreen. She had gone to meet him the day before and he had not mentioned anything about implicating himself. She had been forlorn about the world turning on her and he had assured her that he would take care of it. She didn't realize that he meant he would deflect the attention from her to himself. Rehan had been boasting about his affairs, about how naive his wife was, how little she knew of the man she had married. Hassan said he had tried to reason with him, wanted to make Rehan see the ugliness of his words. Hassan urged him to turn the page, to be faithful to Samreen, especially now when she was about to give birth to their second daughter. Hassan felt guilty. He had been the one to introduce Samreen and Rehan. He had met her on stage in one of his speeches, and Rehan happened to be there too. Samreen won the raffle that included going out for lunch with Hassan. Rehan laughed when he was reminded of that day. Hassan then told him plainly, without room for misinterpretation, that if he didn't come clean himself, Samreen would hear the truth from him. That was when Rehan's amusement turned to rage. He moved towards Hassan with the gun, accusing him of trying to destroy his marriage so he could have Samreen for himself. The accusation spiraled into chaos. As Rehan raised the weapon, Hassan said he reacted instinctively. He grabbed the rifle and the tussle began. Of course, the gun went off, and just like that, Rehan's life ended in a single irreversible second. Once again, forensics corroborated Hassan's story. He was charged with involuntary manslaughter, but since it was self defense, his sentence was reduced to 4 years, and he was released a year earlier because of good conduct. So we go 3 years later, where Hassan is released. Another anniversary, another cake, only this time the room was fuller with more family, more friends, and more proof of a life that had endured. After everyone left, Hassan, as usual, asked Samreen what she wanted for her anniversary gift. Again, what she asked for startled him. I want to visit the cabin with you. I have been meaning to do so all these years, but never found the courage. I think this would be a great time. Her voice trailed off. Are you sure? Hassan asked. Yes, I am very sure. I want to bury his memory on the same day that he was killed. I want to be free of him forever. I need to forgive him. I need to forgive myself, to forgive you, so that I can get on with life like before, living with you, loving you. November 27, 2 days before Thanksgiving. A small kitchen, the same couple. This time, however, she seems to be in control. Hassan looks ill at ease, whereas Samreen, for the first time, looks relaxed and comfortable. It was Rehan's 40th death anniversary. That fact hung heavily between them, but Samreen did not seem concerned. She was making noodles for dinner. She seemed to be in a very good mood, in sharp contrast to Hassan's mood. It was apparent he did not want to be there. He was answering her questions in monosyllables. Summer, when should we leave? He asked. We've been here for 2 days. We will leave in the morning, Hassan, just like Rehan and you were supposed to almost 40 years ago. Can you believe it? Here we are in the same place and at the same time, still grappling with what happened 40 years ago. I hope tonight we can bury all that and forget this day ever happened. They finished the dinner in silence. Samreen seems to have gotten over her newfound vivaciousness and ate her dinner without uttering a word. It was 10:30 p.m. They had cleared the dishes and were sitting together watching TV. Simreen switched off the TV around 10:35. Hassan, if you don't mind, I need a moment to myself. I want to honor his memory with a 2-minute silence. Hassan nods. She gets up and leaves. He starts looking at his phone. He's not enjoying any of this. Just a few more hours, he tells himself, and hopefully Simreen can put this madness behind her. He cannot imagine what has changed her so much in the past few days. Like she's become the woman he did not quite recognize, like the Samreen of all those years ago. Samreen makes her way back and looks up to see her holding a rifle similar to the one he had held. One shot straight to his head. The clock ticks 10:37 p.m. Perhaps she could have forgiven the murder, a moment of madness, but she could never forgive what came after, the way he had besmirched Rehan's reputation, and more importantly, put a question mark on a dead man's love for his wife, one that could not even be defended. The moment Hassan claimed Rehan had been unfaithful, that he had carried on an affair behind her back, something inside her shifted. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was irreversible. That was the instant she knew he was lying, not just about this, but almost about everything. From that point on, she had watched him differently, closely and quietly. The man she thought she knew began to fracture under scrutiny. The charm, the calm, the practiced sincerity, it was all a performance, and once seen, it could not be unseen. She tested him too. One evening, casually, she asked about the woman who had supposedly blackmailed Rehan. He dismissed it easily, too easily. A girl from college, he said, someone obsessed, someone insignificant who had resurfaced out of nowhere. He didn't realize that Rehan had told her everything, every story from college and even school, every friend, every awkward crush. Rehan had never hidden anything from her, not the good, not the embarrassing, not the painful. Still, she didn't rely on that alone. She asked others, quiet questions, old friends, familiar names. No one knew of such a woman. No, there were no whispers, no rumors, nothing. There had been no one before her. Rehan had always told her the truth. She was his first love, the first woman who made the world tilt, who taught him what longing felt like. And Hassan had tried to take that from her too. That was when she understood. He hadn't just killed Rehan, he had tried to erase him. And that was unforgivable. The call that followed came in the dead of night. Hassan's voice, steady, composed, almost soothing. He told her there had been an accident, that Rehan was dead. She remembered being startled by his calmness, though at the time it barely registered. The shock was too intense, too consuming. Her body had simply shut down. She had passed out, and with that, much of the night dissolved into fragments and shadows. Even her conversation with Hassan. For years, it stayed buried until one day she allowed herself to look back, not at the event, but at the conversation. And then everything surfaced. The calmness in his voice, the way Hassan had focused on her distress rather than his own loss, the way he had taken charge immediately, effortlessly, as though this was a role he had always been waiting to step into. The absence of grief, no breaking down, no anger, no hollowed out silences that follows the death of a best friend. He never seemed to have mourned Rehan. He simply replaced him slowly but surely. By the time she stood there with the rifle in her hands, the years had rearranged themselves into something undeniable. This was not an accident by any stretch of the imagination. This was not passion gone wrong in the heat of the moment. This was a carefully premeditated murder staged to look like an accident. The ultimate betrayal. And by the time her finger tightened on the trigger, Samreen was no longer searching for the truth. She was certain Hassan had killed Rehan in cold blood. Summer, did you kill him? She asks. You don't need to point the gun at me to ask that, he says calmly. Did you kill him? She repeats the question. Yes, I did, he answers calmly. Why? Why did you kill him? He loved you so much. He didn't know. He was sleeping when I shot him. Samreen gives a cry of despair. How could you? How could you? Rehan slept like an angel. I had to kill one angel to get to another one, he says wistfully. What do you mean by that? Samreen shouts at him. I fell in love with you the moment I saw you, Summer, but I had my priorities mixed up at that time, which allowed me to lose you. But every time I met you after, I realized what a big mistake I had made. So you decided to correct that mistake by killing the man I loved, your best friend? Yes, I did. And you know what? What? I would kill him again if it means that I could spend my life with you. I don't care what happens now. I have spent the best years of my life with the woman I loved more dearly than my own life. How can you say something like that? She asks, tears streaming down her face. Well, that's how much I love you. Her hands tighten on the trigger. Don't say that you love me. It makes me want to kill myself. I love you, Summer. He smiles at her. Bam! She shoots. He slips. His hand reaches out. Her hand does not. She drops the rifle. The sound is sharp and final, metal striking earth, and then she is running. Running from the man who loved her enough to kill the man she loved. That was the cruelty of it. Love, twisted into justification. 2 years later, Samreen stood with flowers in her hands. Sonia, her sons, and Sophia flanking her in silence. 3 graves lay before them. Rehan Noman, beloved son, husband, and father, left to meet his creator November 27, 1993, 10:37 p.m. Shazia Noman, beloved wife, mother, and grandma, left to meet her creator and join her son September 9th, 2019. She knelt, placed the flowers gently, and lingered for a moment longer than necessary because some goodbyes take their own sweet time, never quite ending. When Sonia and Sophia moved towards the 3rd grave, Samreen stayed back. She did not follow them, nor did she stop them. The headstone stood a short distance away, its presence undeniable even without her reading it aloud. It stood there like the orphan he had been. Hassan H. Haq. Time of death, November 27, 2023, 10:37 p.m. Justice had not come quickly. It had not come cleanly, but it had come with the precision that felt almost deliberate, as though time itself had waited to serve justice. Samreen did not approach. She did not kneel, nor did she pray. She turned back to Rehan's grave instead, where love had ended too early, but had never lied, and stood quietly. Some debts are not paid in words, they are paid in time. Thank you, listeners, for being with me through this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know, Sarah at kahanisuno.com or Kabir at kahanisuno.com. This is Sarah signing off. Thank you once again. I'll see you very soon.
Wow, Sarah. That was quite an ending, an amazing conclusion to an equally amazing story, I would say. Um, it felt like I was flying a kite joyfully in the first episode. In this episode, only to have the string suddenly cut. Part 2 felt like the kite gliding again, and then with a sharp zip, it crashed to the ground.
That is a very dramatic way of putting it, Kabir, and very Sankrantri appropriate, I must say.
Yeah, the kite part, yes. I mean, if you're going to emotionally destroy people, at least do it seasonally, right?
Of course, I do believe in festive trauma, you see.
Jokes aside, I absolutely love the character development. You start each character at point A, and by the end, they have completely transformed. Take Samreen, for example. She begins as a timid, obedient wife, someone we later realize is shaped by an overwhelming sense of gratitude toward Hassan. And then finally, she comes into her own, right? Beneath that softness is a woman of steel, someone who avenges the death of the man she loved so deeply. A strong heroine, I must say, a great character.
Thank you, Kabir. I truly believe that, many women who appear subdued, and when you see do appear like that, they are actually fighting silent battles, I feel, Kabir. They are shaped by their circumstances, the battles that no one else can quite see. That inner struggle, is always present. And when the time comes, I think a woman can summon her innate strength and face those struggles head on and, more importantly, win.
Absolutely, totally agree. I see that you have built the character so beautifully, Sarah. Uh, it actually reminds me of Anjam, where
Mm.
obsession spirals so far that it leads to murder and betrayal, right?
Yeah, you're talking about Shah Rukh's and Madhuri Dixit's Anjam, I believe, right?
Exactly. We never leave out Shah Rukh Khan out of our discussion, right?
Yeah, there are definitely shades of Anjam here. But the difference is important. In Anjam, I think the woman is tormented and framed. In this story, Hassan ensures that Samreen is always protected, even when his actions are deeply flawed.
That is true. But that raises the question, even if he truly loves her, can his actions ever be defended, justified?
Of course not, Kabir. Hurting anyone, let alone your best friend, for the sake of love can never quite be justified, I believe.
That part was especially hard to digest. The idea that he kills Rehan, his closest friend, that's a line even cinematic obsession rarely crosses. Don't think even SRK crossed that line in Anjam or any of his films.
Kabir, some people jokingly say Kuch Kuch Hota Hai is actually a murder mystery, where Shah Rukh, being Shah Rukh, can't be all goody-goody. He gets bored, he kills Rani and pursues Kajol, especially since she's engaged to another man.
I knew it. Bollywood has been gaslighting us for decades now.
Clearly, it seems like that.
That's a fantastic conspiracy theory. And honestly, uh, it's hard to imagine anyone else but Shah Rukh Khan playing Hassan. I was actually looking at Shah Rukh Khan while I was listening to you. But if we had to cast someone else, Sarah, who do you think could do justice to the role?
I think, Kabir, my most favorite actor, Irfan Khan, would have been extraordinary in this role. He could convey Hassan's layered emotions, the love, the guilt, the restraint, the darkness, I believe, with effortless conviction.
Yeah, Irfan with that extra R there, right? I don't know why he put that R extra there. I keep wondering all the time. Absolutely, yeah. No, I agree with you. His passing was one of Bollywood's greatest losses. Very early in his age, we lost him.
Mhm.
What an actor, Hassan said. Now that we have cast Hassan, who would you choose for Samreen?
That one is clear for me. Just like as you said, you imagined Shah Rukh whenever I talked about Hassan. For me, Samreen was Devi and Devi was Samreen. Another irreplaceable loss, I must say. She embodied vulnerability and quite strength like no one else could, Kabir.
You remember Devi in Khuda Gawar, right? I think
Right.
that exactly matches how she has been portrayed. I can picture
Mhm.
it. Standing in a white and silver sari on her 25th wedding anniversary, her two daughters beside her.
Yeah, and half the audience is already crying, I'm sure. That would be quite perfect.
And for Mrs. Noman,
No contest there, Kabir. We already talked about this. Lalita Pawar.
of course, she also embodies a strong woman, no matter how old, a woman who relentlessly pursues her son's killer while perishing in the hunt. And Rehan?
Sticking with our theme of actors who have unfortunately left us too quickly, who do you think, Kabir?
Rehan, yeah, I think Sushant Singh Rajput. Rehan's warmth and innocence would have suited him perfectly, I guess.
Yeah, reminds me of his role in PK as Sarfaraz Yusuf. I think it was
Exactly.
along those lines. Looks like we've cast the entire film, Kabir. Now we just need the magic of AI to bring all these actors back to life and act in our movie, I guess.
Sadly, yes. But Sarah, truly, kudos to you. You wove the story beautifully and brought everything together. I was expecting there could be some loose ends, but nothing of that sort happened. Just one question remains from my side. How does
Mhm.
Samreen escape the law after killing Hassan point blank?
Well, Kabir, a good writer never closes all the loops. He never said she did. Perhaps there is a case pending. Perhaps there is something we don't quite know. I leave that up to the reader's imagination.
I also love the chapter titles, the togetherness, the depth, and the last one was my favorite. Till death does us apart. A little tongue twister there, but I like.
Yeah, if you listen closely enough, Kabir, the titles give the entire story away.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm looking at it now, and yeah, you're right. Master stroke, Sarah. Thank you for bringing us such a nuanced tale, a murder mystery, a love story, and a revenge saga, all woven into one delightful thriller of a story. Great storytelling all the way, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you, Kabir. I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
I'm actually looking forward to your next story. When is it coming?
It's your turn now, Kabir. I'm hoping you have another adventure ready for us.
I will need to dive into my backlog and see what's ready to go.
I'm looking forward to it, Kabir.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Thank you, listeners. We hope you enjoyed this Q&A. This is Kabir
And this is Sarah.
signing off for now. See you in our next episode. Stay tuned, guys.